Hey, what's going on? I thought I would do this impromptu live stream um, because I wanted to just talk to you. I haven't done a live stream in a while. Um, the 8:30 live streams are kicking my butt. Let me tell you. I initially started wanting to do live streaming like late at night, and then I would get halfway through the live stream or about a quarter of the way through the live stream, and then I would be um, absolutely exhausted. Um, I decided to not um um I think I'm going to change the entire live stream schedule because I just can't keep up with live streams that are that late. And even like the this afternoon, I find that you all who watch this show are typically on when you're supposed to be working, like during the day. So I thought I would go live, see if I can catch up with some of you. I'm in Boston. Um, Obviously the Boston Marathon's going on right now, but I thought I would let you know what exactly like it just I thought I would check in. That's my goal. My goal is to check in with you. And I wanted to go live. I was browsing on my phone about an article from the Wall Street Journal, and it was talking about a Generation Z and the prevalence of them going to work for the family business. Um, because the white collar job market is cooling off. I thought I wanted to share that with you. There's quite a few things I wanted to share with you. Um, but I'm going to be testing out over the next week or so. I'm going to be testing out a few different times to live stream to you, just to kind of see which one kind of lands the most, lands the best with you, and just to make sure that we can connect better. And it might be that you decide that the live streams that I'm going to do work for you kind of during the day so that you can kind of get distracted from work. You see, I always think that people want to hear the live streams late at night, but honestly, I think that what ends up happening is you get home, you get distracted, and um, yeah. And plus, I'm exhausted. It's hard for me to keep my attention when I'm really, really tired. So I think like early. Let's just try a little bit earlier. This is gonna. I'm doing this at like 4:45, 4:55. You're probably in the car on the way home, not even near YouTube, but just thought I would check this out. So I'm gonna run through this story real quick because I think it's relevant, and I wanted to share it, and then we'll kind of go from there. So let me just share my screen. 1 second. All right, so this is a young generation goes to work for mom and dad. This was a story from the Wall Street Journal. Let me just make the text bigger so that you can see it easier. And me too, of course, because I'm getting old. My eyes are old. So the article says, well, it starts with a story. Someone named John Welsh said the closer John Welsh came to earning his graphic design degree, the worse the job market seemed. By the time he was ready to graduate in 2022, he was seriously considering ditching his chosen field and taking up his dad's offer to work for the family metal fabrication business. It feels so impersonal just sending off your resume to whatever job you see, said Welsh, who is 25 and has worked for 3 years as a purchaser at his dad's company in Plymouth, Minnesota, versus going back to a place where I grew up working and was already familiar with everyone. I mean, I don't know if it's impersonal, but because that's literally how you got a job for the last, however, half a century. Sending your resume, your potential boss takes a look at it, and but I can understand. I think coming from his perspective, having worked for his father's firm and thinking about kind of leaving the firm to do his own thing, didn't sit right. It says that Welsh now plans to eventually take over Sealy Craftsman along with his older brother, who surprised their dad, Tom, by going to work for the family firm. A younger generation is taking a bigger interest in joining the family business, spurred by a cooling labor market that is making it more difficult to land entry-level jobs, economists and business analysts say. At the same time, their parents and grandparents, baby boomers and Gen Xers who own the vast majority of America's businesses, are feeling more urgency about making succession plans as they look toward retirement. True. Fact check, true. They are certainly heading towards retirement. And we do know that they own a significant amount of the businesses and homes and wealth right now across the U.S. In fact, it is essentially what the economists have called what is about to happen, the largest wealth transfer in the history of humankind. That is going to happen when the Gen Xers and baby boomers transition their wealth to their millennial children. It says that the share of small businesses that employ a young adult child of an owner has doubled since 2018, is up 13% year over year as of January. Roughly 1,200, according to an analysis by payroll provider Gusto. I had Gusto before. Gusto was okay. As a payroll provider. I had issues, but I won't talk about them here. It says the company analyzed 400,000 payrolls, searching for companies where the last name of an owner over 50 years old matched the name of an employee under 30. The analysis purposely excluded 100 of the most common names in the U.S. So I guess this is the kid that we were just talking about, the 25-year-old who's working at his dad's firm. It says that it is still a small share of small business owners who employ their children, said Gusto economist Nick Tremper. But that movement is significant. Children who go to work for their parents also tend to stay at the company for years. This is suggesting all parties are benefiting from this arrangement, Tremper said. Mark Valentino, the head of business banking at Citizens, sees this moment as a reversal from recent decades in which the children of business owners tended to stigmatize returning to the family firm in favor of striking out on their own. For the first time in a generation, there's more excitement and interest in taking over a business that already exists. That for many, that interest is driven by the economic realities. COVID upended the career paths of many young people, then a boom in artificial intelligence and more recent trade war unease began reshaping the entry-level job market. So, economies always change. They shift. We enter ages, different kinds of industrial ages. We exit different kinds of industrial ages. And right now, there is certainly a change in how this latest crop of young folks, Gen Z, are viewing family-owned businesses. And I have a caution, though, that we're going to get to, because I'm going to show you, I want you, if you're thinking about going into business, doing a family business, I want you to have all the facts, the reality. I want you to know the land, scope it out, understand the flow of what it's like to go to work for a family business. All right, so I'm going to give you some data points that I think are really important for you to understand as we talk about this. The article continues that after graduating from college in 2020 with a major in music performance, surprise, surprise, no offense to this kid, but you graduate college with a degree in music performance and you want to find an entry-level job at some firm that's going to pay you enough to live, it's like probably chose wrong. Not the best choice of degrees for that thing we call life after school. Anyways, but I continue. Max Swisher had no plans to go to work for his mom's consulting firm, but when his post-grad job teaching English in Japan was derailed by the pandemic, Val Mom, as his mom, Val Swisher, now signs her emails to him offered an alternative. Max's job as technology director at content consulting firm Content Rules has turned his mom's long-term succession dream. Max isn't entirely sold. I'm trying to figure out if I'm really trying to work at this company for my entire life, said Max, who is 27 and lives in East Hampton, Mass. Val said her son has proved himself to their 30-person team and to their clients, but she has struggled at times to find the balance with giving priority to both Max's happiness and Content Rules' success. She has adjusted to his job description to better fit his interests and tried to spare him from necessary tasks she knows he doesn't enjoy. You never want to see your kid not happy, said Val, who is 62 and lives across the country from her son in Calistoga, California. But the job is the job. Sometimes we have to do things that aren't that we don't want to do. like appeasing a difficult client. 42% of the 8,754 small business owners surveyed by market research firm Barlow Research in 2024 said they plan to transition ownership of their companies in the next 5 years, up from 36% in 2019. Of that group, 28% said they were looking to a family member to take over. Family business strategist Gary Plaster of the Fairhope Group said that he has been seeing more of his clients hire their children in the hopes of passing their companies on to them. While it sometimes works out, he said, there are pitfalls. Young family members who haven't worked in the business before may be entering it as young adults without training or experience. So I wanted to share that with you because I think it's important to kind of understand how the landscape is changing, the job workforce is changing. And many of the kids out there right now who are looking and seeking to go into this entry-level career with this, in the case of the gentleman that we just spoke about, music performance degree, are going to find themselves on the bad end of that stick. The pointy end of the stick is not supposed to be pointy on both sides, but only one. But when you go to school for something that is not in high demand and nobody stopped you from doing so, as a kid going there, and it's almost unethical, and we can talk about it later, for schools to accept money from these kids doing this. You're sharpening the blunt end of the stick. Okay, and you could get poked on both ends. It's not great. It's not great. I don't encourage that. It's crazy, in fact. So, but there is some caution. Like, I don't think just avoiding going to work or going to work for your parents is like, okay, it's a saving grace for everyone. There is a caution when these businesses change hands. And I want to go over some of those statistics with you right now because I think they're really important to know. Okay. Okay, so here we go. This is really important for you to know. Check it out. Okay, in the United States, a familiar aphorism, shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations, describes the propensity of family-owned businesses to fail by the time the founder's grandchildren have taken charge. Variations on that phrase appear in other languages too. The data supports the saying. Some 70% of family-owned businesses fail or are sold before the second generation gets a chance to take over. So that's something to think about, right? Like 70% of family-owned businesses fail before the second generation even gets a chance to take over. And then it says just 10% remain active. Privately held companies for the third generation to lead. So that is crazy. Majority of family-owned businesses go out of business by the time the second generation takes over or the third generation takes over. That is a massive failure rate. That is a greater failure rate than people who are starting initial businesses trying to survive the first 5 years, which is roughly about half fail within the first 5 years. And then if if businesses that are getting passed on to the kids, fail in the second or third generations, like it's like the numbers like 75%. So you go from 50% of businesses that fail within the first 5 years to 75 to 90% that fail between generations 2 and 3. That's a problem. So you may be asking, what does a family business have to do to ensure that they're set up for the long term? and that their business doesn't succeed, so that their kids can succeed if their kids want to actually run the business. Well, there's a few things that you have to do, and note that education at university is not one of them. In my opinion, the current generation that's running the business successfully needs to safeguard the business for the business's eternal future. You have to structure your business so that when you pass on your business, there's systems and processes in place. And then there's systems and processes in place that help you to enhance those systems and processes, almost like a constitution, so that the business is always based on foundational principles of the original owners that were successful. And those basic principles that stay from the business owners that were successful actually become the guiding light for second or third generation businesses. If you are going to inherit a business and you're going to try to run it to be successful, then it's going to be critically important that you follow the same elements of success that the previous generation did. Without those elements for success the previous generation had, there's no way that you're going to be able to be successful. So, as the primary generation that's starting the business, you have to set up essentially like a constitution, a bill of rights for your company today on how you make decisions, how you decide who to bring into the company, who to let go, how you decide how to manage things like finances and operations, and how you think about solving problems. Having kind of guidelines around those things actually make a big deal. The owner should write that stuff down, and he or she should pass it to the next generation. Because usually there's a couple of things that sink businesses. The first thing that sinks a business, that's the second or third generation, is how to make decisions that are similar in scope to how the previous generation made decisions. And that includes finances, of course, when and how to grow, what work to pursue, what product or service lines to extend, what things you should try in marketing, how you want to position yourself, how do you adapt to new and changing technologies as they become readily available. All of these things are decisions that, whether the primary generation died off or not, they would have had to make for the business themselves to continue being in business. You got to adapt. There's a saying in business, you adapt or you die. The reality is that the decisions about adaptation, though, need to be based in rooted in some foundational way of thinking, original way of thinking that made the current business what it is. I know people don't like to think anymore, especially not critically. But in order to be successful in thinking critically, you absolutely must have a basis for why you believe what you do, a basis for how you're going to actually create, the business and pass it on for multiple generations. Oftentimes, the best way to do that is to hire people who understand what the core principles and values of the company are and the guiding light, who are outside of the family. Take your ego out, let other people run it, and be board members to the current management structure that are going in there and leading the company. That's definitely how you can ensure that the business is successful. Again, as long as the primary owners, that first generation, doing the work of putting together a solid testamentary way for people who are coming in to understand what they need to do to grow that business into the future. But the fact that 90% of these businesses fail generation after generation, like 2, 3, 4 generations in, is a tragedy, because there are so many businesses out there with good there's good products and services that they offer. So, that's a problem. So there's a few traps that Harvard Business Review paper talked about. And let me just reshare this again. Hold on one second. Oh, I think I'm still sharing. Trap number 1, there's always a place for you here. Some proprietors of family-owned firms make their children feel obligated to join the company. which can backfire by creating a crop of managers who aren't interested in being there. More often, though, we see parents emphasize that their offspring are free to join the business if they choose to. The company is successful. If the company is successful, those children are likely to have been raised amid wealth, which broadens their choices as adults. Generally, this situation translates into an unspoken promise that there's always a place here. Interesting. How to escape the trap. It says insist on proper training and screening. It's natural for a family business to welcome members of the next generation, and it's healthy to expose them to the company at an early age so they can make informed decision about whether to pursue a career there. But a job with the company shouldn't be an entitlement. Those who want to join deserve no special accommodation. That is true. Anyone who goes to work for a family business should earn the right to be there, and that includes children of the primary first generation. Trap number 2, the business can't grow fast enough to support everyone. An underappreciated problem is that families often grow more quickly than their businesses do. If a company founder has 3 children, each of whom marries and produces 3 more children, each of whom marries within 3 generations, there could be 25 or more people, including all the spouses, working or looking to work at the company. Many businesses simply don't have enough work to employ every family member. Interesting point. Obviously, control issues are an issue when it comes to building a business, right? In second or third generations. And, children fight over control. It's so easy to establish control of a first generation business because no one disputes who's in charge of the family business when the business is running. But when the business is passed down to the next generation or the generation after that, then the disputes start to happen. There is no doubt in your family's mind who is the head honcho of the business that is running. Okay, but when the owner of that business has 3 kids, right? And then those 3 kids come in, and then they each have a different way they want to do stuff. One kid is entrepreneurial, one kid is like a basket case, and then the other kid kind of barely wants to even be involved in the business, so they do the minimum possible. But there's one serious kid about running the business. What are you going to do when you have 3 kids, next generation? Who is in charge? It's important to stipulate. If you're the first generation business owner, stipulate who or what kind of personality you want running the business. And maybe to even identify and select before you die which one of your kids, not to cause the last fight on your way out, but like which one of your kids you want actually running the business. To me, that is ideal. That is probably the most epic way of choosing a successor in the business, is having the person in charge identify their own successor and then passing it on. Now, just because you're identifying a successor to run the business does not mean, for instance, that the other kids don't get anything. They, of course, would reap the financial benefits of the business, but it's important to keep the business on the tracks. You need to have a solid plan for which one of your kids you want running this business to keep it on the tracks. Which one do you think is going to give you the most optimal opportunity to keep that business running for multiple generations? I mean, you see it in movies, you see it in arguments all the time, the cases where family members are fighting about who wants to control it, and the most irresponsible family member comes in and tries to control the company, and they've done kind of nothing with their lives, So I mean, it's out there. They try to do it. So there's that. But yeah, there is a limiting point where the business is not going to be able to survive. There's going to be way more people. I mean, you know how the family trees go. It starts like this, and then add 3 more spouses, and then add 3 more kids, and this 9 and 12 and 15, and then add 3, and then it goes like. There's a reason why a family tree goes like this, because there's so many people that just want to be a part. They want to be contenders for the family business, but they don't know how to be contenders for the family business. So that becomes a problem. What is
DoorDash
this?
for Michael, right? Yeah, it's me.
Oh, that was from my DoorDash video. Oops. All right. Back to it. Okay, trap number 3 is the third trap. Family members remain in silos according to bloodline. One of the most striking things that we've noticed about family businesses is the tendency of the fathers and sons, and increasingly daughters, to specialize in the same aspect of the business, whether it's finance, operations, or marketing. This can be problematic for several reasons. First, by staying in specialized silos, next generation managers fail to gain the cross functional expertise needed for executive leadership. Second, when close family members supervise each other, the personal dynamic can prevent candid feedback and interfere with coaching. Together, these factors can create a leadership vacuum in the up and coming generation. This may prompt this current generation to stay in the top position too long, limiting the company's adaptability to change. Let me tell you something about this. I'm going to say fact check true on this one. Here's the reason why. Because I've seen these family businesses operate this way. I've seen it. And it can get kind of brutal, right? So like father has a son or daughters. They want them to specialize in one area of the business. The kid has dreams and goals to specialize in a completely different area of the business, but they do it anyway. But as a business owner, they neglect the fact that business, like to be successful in business, right? In my opinion, you have to be able to monitor and like control and to understand multiple different tasks, right? Like you can't just be a one-trick pony. Business isn't a one-trick pony. You have to be able to make adjustments on the fly for when things happen in the business that you weren't expecting, right? Like you have to be able to go out there and meet vendors and clients. You have to be able to, so networking. You have to be able to understand the goal and the future of the business. So you like need a visionary. You have to be able to work and ensure operational consistency. You have to be able to ensure that the business is like always kind of inventing or reinventing itself to be successful long term. So there's more, like when you're operating a family business, there's more to it than just, kind of cashing checks and driving Porsches. You can't just cash check and drive Porsches. You should be, if we're being like accurate about this, is like you should be willing to learn everything that the first generation is teaching. You need to sit at the feet of the first generation. And I get it. Like when you're coming out of university and you're looking for an entry-level job, so many business owners want to just strike out on their own. I mean, so many kids of business owners want to strike out on their own. They want to do their own thing. They want to decouple themselves from their families and become their own person. Get it. I get it. However, you being yourself as the child of the first generation family business owner is not what got the business to where it was. What got the business to where it was are the principles, the actions, the behaviors, the guiding, the orienting light of the primary generation. That does not mean that your skills and your abilities and your desires won't move the business forward. But what it does mean is that you have to think about how you can make the business better based on the principles of the past, and then merge who you are into the business. And the primary business owner, the first generation business owner, should allow their kids to do that. And as, of course, your family kind of observes how well you're doing with like taking the reins of the business, they're going to give you more responsibility. So I thought that was interesting. Look, I'm all about entrepreneurship, whether it's the first generation, the second generation, the third generation, the fourth generation. But I'm even more about running successful businesses that last a long time and are not just here like a blink of an eye and then they're gone. I want businesses that create generational wealth, generation to generation to generation. And that's going to require humility on the person who's coming in and recognition of the individual skill sets of the person who's coming in behind you, right? You got to work as a team, right, to make the business successful long term. So when I saw that article in the Wall Street Journal, I thought it was interesting that these kids are going back to their families' businesses, and good for them. I think that's really important. I think it does a lot for the community when business owners kind of work together. When the families continue on generation to generation, that business just gets more steeped into the community, creating jobs and ultimately making it more successful. So let's do this. Since this is live, I want to take a look at because like I'm addicted to watching like TikTok videos about certain subjects that we talk about the same day. Let's see. Okay, I think I found a TikTok video that will address this. So let me take a look. I'm going to take a look at it and then we're going to talk about it kind of as we go. You'll see my live reaction.
We're going to continue to.
Hold on one second. I need to change the audio to my.
Be a privately held family business. Fortunately, the growth of the business provides.
When they overlaid the music over these TikToks, I get popped. I get a copyright copyright not struck, but I get copyrighted when they put these ridiculous things over the family business. All right, let's take a look at this one. No. Copyright again.
How's it going, guys? I just wanted to introduce my son. He's going to be taking a lot of these videos. His name's Harper Oliver. He's going to trade school right now for paint and body work. He's also a little bit of a mechanic here in the shop. Some of these videos, when you hear, "Hey, Dad," it's this guy right here. Just wanted to introduce him to all of you guys. Like I said, we're a family business, but we just want you guys to get to know us as a family. My son is working here. My best friend since kindergarten is our shop manager. My wife is director of finance. My daughter is finance manager. And my son, Boone Oliver, will be out of the military. He'll be coming to work here in the shop. So we'll do some videos with him, too. But
yes.
Anyways, just wanted to introduce you to Harper Oliver. He's the one that's going to be asking these questions, I think, and chasing me around a little bit.
Okay, so this is how you do it. This is how you start it right here. So clearly his son is very young. He introduces his son. At the very beginning, right? And what he did when he introduced his son at the very beginning was he made it like it didn't make his son seem like he was kind of taking over immediately, right? But it was going to be a slow climb in the business. So this gives people who are watching an opportunity to kind of get a sense. Maybe this dad has never done TikTok video before, or he didn't have a TikTok marketing campaign, but his son is going to start doing like TikTok videos, and then he's going to he's also going to school for mechanics. So what's going to happen is that is a mixture of like a newer generation technology with with the old school business. So this is kind of how you kind of introduce the next generation of solid business owners to the marketplace. You slowly introduce stuff like that. All right, let's keep going. Let's find another one. I thought that was pretty good. Let's check out this one. Hopefully no music. No, see the music overlays would get me copy struck. That can't happen. Let's see here. Okay. Actually, I think that's okay.
30.
Hold on. That's not about like operating a family-owned business, though.
The payroll, the guys, and even the trucks dispatched to the right place. I let Tom handle all that. I'm pretty much.
Oh man, trying to find a video with no overlay of music is really tough.
No, I didn't, dingbat. Listen, I said, Brooke, is your mother
Get
speaking
your
for you?
finger
Do you
out
want to
of
be
my face.
No, I didn't, dingbat. Listen, I said, Brooke, is your mother speaking?
So that's pretty funny and hilarious. And yes, when you're working for a family business, you're going to come across people arguing about what's happening in the business, and you will get privy to a bunch of, it's like your bosses arguing. It's pretty hilarious.
Hey, you not having fun? No. Yeah, me neither. Hey, you not having fun? No. Yeah, me neither.
But look, businesses, 24/7, it's something close to that. It is hard to have a business, but it's both fun, addicting, exciting, and all the other stuff. Let's see. We'll see what this is.
Grandma, your order is ready. Grandma, your order is ready.
Yeah, right back, and I'm here.
No goodness. Must there be music for every single stinking clip that's out there? Let me see.
See you. You got big.
You know, these music like clips that they trim and attach to these videos are like landmines for copyright. Let's talk about this. What is this? So yeah, starting a family business where you're working in it that's kind of mobile, like trucking, I guess that works. I guess it works. It does work if the trucking business doesn't require you to like go out and truck and like actually do the trucking work, but like you can like manage your crew. I think it works. You know. Let's see. I feel like this one's gonna have anyone that has a selfie like this has music in their video. Let's try it anyway.
Excuse me, ma'am. Quick question.
No, that's not it. This one.
Excuse me, ma'am.
No, wrong one. Let's see.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Oh,
Quick question.
this
for
thing
you.
is unforgivable. Oh, let's see what this venture capitalist has to say. This was the one I was trying to choose before, but it wouldn't work. She's driving a Lamborghini Urus. There she goes with the copyright music. Killing me. How my business failed. This is interesting.
You know how we like to identify things that are red flags? Yeah. I have a new one. Business.
Okay. No.
So now y'all know that I failed at entrepreneurship. And by the way, thanks so much for your positive, kind words. I really needed that. But now I want to tell you how I failed. And the stuff that I'm about to say, it can apply to any business. So it's not just for the rental car business. But I'm just going to talk about my experience with the rental car business. So number one, be careful who you work with. That was one of my biggest downfalls, is working with people who I thought were genuine, and the whole time they just wanted to either drive my cars or steal my money. Really vet out the people you're about to work with, because they're going to see some of your financials and they're going to know a lot of your business and what's going on. And a lot of times they're not really here to help you. They just want to take from you.
Yes. You need to always vet the people that you work with. Always. You need to always make sure that you know who has their hands in your business, whether they are controlling things as important as money or whether they're controlling like the workflow in your business. You need to have a pulse, and you can't just let your business fly by the wayside and just kind of, you're just kind of managing it off to the side. Like, you have to be an active participant in your business, in your company. Come on now. So yeah, who you hire is just as important as any other decision that you make in your business. This is not surprising. Anyways, I'll let her continue. But this is a good realization. If she failed for this is part of one of her learning lessons, very, very important.
From you. So lesson learned. Number 2, you own a business. Treat it like a business. You don't need to try to help everyone. Help when you can. But one mistake I made was always trying to look out, right? So there will be a situation where someone might be having a hard time. And I'm so quick to, oh, well, you don't have to pay me this week, just whenever you can. And they took advantage. Everyone is not nice. And I'm so naive. I know. People will keep taking from you as long as you keep giving. Give when you can, but you're still running a business.
Okay. Critical part of running a business. Business is not an ATM. Your business, if you're in a business that where the projects, where the work itself generates a whole lot of cash to get like an equipment cost, a materials cost, whatever the case is, it's going to be crucially important that you don't treat your business like an ATM. Now, generally speaking, when you think about the term "don't treat your business like an ATM," no doubt your mind goes immediately to things like not like taking cash out the business, right? But let's just, for the sake of business, treating your business like an ATM also can include giving away free services, discounted services, giving people, hey, you know what? I like you. You can get me later, right? Like you can, I'll give you half off and you can just give me the rest later. No, when you run a business, you have materials, overhead, and costs that are associated with delivering every service and product that's out there. So like, yeah, you should not be giving away services or product for free to anybody. And I think that the fact that this lady recognizes this in the clip is like a really important lesson for the future. I think she's going to be actually really successful later because of her realizations here. But let's keep on listening to some of her realizations about why she failed in business.
Is that sticking? Okay. And the last biggest mistake that I made, and please take this from your sis, I should have quit sooner. I should have been quit. I always had this mindset going into this that you got to keep pushing, you got to keep going. But sometimes you have to close doors to open new ones. And I wish I would have quit months ago. I really should have quit around June, July. It's March. Okay. So sometimes you just needed the lessons from that experience. You didn't need to keep going and keep pushing. When you get what you need from it, if you feel like in your heart you're done or you getting signs that you just need to be done, be done.
That was a good video. I think she's right. Should she have quit sooner? Yeah. Sometimes we drag on stuff, especially when it comes to business, because we don't want to face I don't know about the consequences, but we don't want to just face the reality that the business is failing. Business can be really emotional for people, especially if it's their first one. Nobody wants to feel like a failure, but certainly nobody wants to feel like they are, that is going to come crumbling down. And so there is a little cognitive dissonance that happens in business for some people, and it can be kind of a brutal reality slap. But, it is an important thing to understand. All right, let's see what this guy's talking about with LLCs.
Most people don't know about this, but
no, this is not the right video. This is not the right video. I feel like I have to click on the video before.
I had no idea that LLCs were probably the worst way to do business, and the wealthy and the elite are using something completely different. Then I stumbled on the information that changed my life. Check it out. Here's the thing with having an LLC to do business. You have to register that with the state. So that means the state.
Okay, let's see how this guy is going to convince us how. Yeah.
Oversees your business. There's fees, there's annual reports, and then there's annual fees that you have to pay again to keep that business and LLC intact. LLC.
Okay, so he said two of the same thing, I think. And so this is it's important for us to understand. The fees that you need to the fees that you create that are created for you is typically to register your LLC. Now, some people go to an attorney to have them register an LLC. I'm sophisticated enough at this point in business where I don't necessarily need an attorney to register my businesses. I do them on my own. However, I know in Massachusetts, I can't speak for all states. And the problem with a lot of these social media videos is that they speak for all states when they shouldn't, because every state has a different process slightly and expense related to starting an LLC. LLCs, I can tell you broadly, generally require an annual fee. Okay. An annual filing fee. The initial filing fee is usually equal to the annual filing fee. In Massachusetts, it's $500. So you pay $500 when you register the LLC, and then every year you got to pay another $500 as an annual filing fee for the LLC. It's not more complicated than that. Basically, what happens is you have to go in, confirm everything is still the same, meaning that the members are still the same in the LLC, meaning that the address for service is still the same for the LLC, and pay your filing fee of $500 in Massachusetts. That's it. $500. That's it. So let's see what else he has to say.
E stands for limited liability company, but the corporate veil can be pierced very easily. And when you do that, they can go after your assets personally for something that the business does. Let's say you're married and you get a divorce. Well, that LLC, it's going to be in divorce court. And now you've got to split up your business. You got to split up your assets. Or when you pass away, your business goes into probate. Your assets are frozen and likely you're going to go out of business. What's the solution for that? You're asking yourself, I'm sure. The solution is using trusts. Trusts are the ultimate weapon in business and asset protection, along with estate planning. Here's why. Trusts offer unparalleled privacy. You don't record anything on public record that divulges the ownership of a trust. An LLC, on the other hand, you have to record that with the Secretary of State. Unlike an LLC, trusts offer asset protection, okay? So your assets are protected against creditors, against lawsuits, so it shields your assets super effectively. There's the fact that if your business is owned in a trust, you get to circumvent probate. So when you die, your business does not go into probate, your assets don't get frozen, your money doesn't get frozen. Last thing is the flexibility that trusts offer, okay? You can assign those business interests rather easily, and then the management of those assets, I mean, it's unparalleled, okay? So listen, if you want to learn more about how to do business the right way, protect your assets, and
okay. This gentleman conflates a few issues into one. First and foremost, an LLC is not a corporation. It is a disregarded entity, meaning that in a pass-through entity, which sends the pass-through income, profit or loss to the members of the LLC. The LLC, if it's a sole proprietor as a single member or a general partnership, are typically still considered general partnerships if it's a partnership or a sole proprietorship. You get corporate protection with the LLC, but what you don't get with the LLC is another separate entity, okay? A regarded entity or an entity that stands on its own. A trust just adds another layer of protection to an LLC. So what he's saying is, and LLCs are probably the worst way to do business. I think maybe this is shorthand for him attempting to say that an LLC is not a way to plan for the future and to pass down and stuff like your business assets to your company, to your children, to your inheritance. You need more than that, right? You need an additional step, right? You need a trust. A trust is a process by which you can protect your LLC and the beneficiary and the members of the LLC by making them beneficiaries of the trust. It's harder to pierce the veil of a trust, especially if there's an LLC in there, than it is to pierce the veil of an LLC. LLCs give you corporate protection and provide a small veil, small v, but not as much protection as you get corporate protection, meaning that your assets within the LLC that were part of doing business, right? That's where the extent of the lawsuits can go. They still can't go over after your personal assets if you're doing business in the name of the LLC. Where people get jammed up with LLCs, get lawsuits and veils pierced and all this other stuff, is when they sign personally for something and they sign in the LLC's name together for credit or whatever the case is. Because an LLC is, whether you're a single member or general partnership, there's almost always personal guarantees required for credit. If there's to back like a loan or some kind of credit thing that comes up, right? So it's very, 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 very important if you think that you want to build business credit that is separate from your own personal guarantee, meaning your social security number going on something, and being held jointly liable, you personally and the LLC, then start an S Corp. An S Corp is a regarded entity, single entity of its own. And instead of being a member of that, you become a shareholder to the LLC and you give yourself full protection because S Corp itself stands on its own and has its own credit, blah, blah, blah. Understand? But this is just a little, it's not that he's fully incorrect. He's just not extrapolating out the entire thing. And in a 2-minute and 23-second TikTok video, there's no surprise there. So there's that. So let's take a look at another video. Let us. No, there's that copyright issue again. You know, these people are really choosing violence by having all this copyright music on here. Am I going to get the actual video? No, I'm not. Like when you're trying to share videos from like the browser, not like the browser, but the browser, it's really hard. All right, what's this?
We're back in New.
Good morning, everybody.
I don't know what I'm doing here. There's one of those copyright songs again.
Family business is a lot of fun if it's done right, but your family business is never going to be any more functional than your family is. So if your family is by and large crazy, don't expect them
fact check true
to come down to the office and be sane. It's not how that works. Family
true.
Joe, you're late. What are you gonna do? Fire me? All right, Joe, I'm not gonna ask you again. Get off your phone. What are you gonna do? Fire me? All right, man, we're gonna take a little break. You just took a break like 2 minutes ago. And what are you gonna do? Fire me?
Yeah. The problem with family businesses is that family members don't treat it like a business, and they should treat it like a business. when you treat it like a secondary obligation and not like you going to work, if you don't have respect for it, there's going to be a lot of arguments. Respect the business as a place that's going to earn you money and be a responsible adult. Don't just be a jerk because you started a business. You owe even more consideration to the person that you went into business with. Don't be like this TikTok. This is a one of those stage things, right? So, whatever.
Because family-owned businesses are more likely to be people-driven early on, when they make that transition over to more of a process and technology-driven organization, it disrupts the people aspect of the business. In other words,
True.
It's something that disrupts the culture. It's something that creates a sort of a longing for the way things used to be. And so it can be a very painful cultural transition for an organization to not totally abandon the people-driven component of the business that made them so successful in the first place, but instead it becomes painful in that the technology and the process focus is something that the organization never had to do before, and it feels a bit impersonal, or it can feel a bit impersonal. So as we're going through that transition and starting to add more of a layer of process and technology focus to an organization, we need to make sure that we recognize that there is going to be an impact on people, and the negative impact might actually be stronger in a family-owned business because of some of those dynamics that I've talked about. Because family-owned business,
I think this is true. I do. I think that this is it is very important when a company becomes more process based, that you that the family kind of, we talked about it before, that the family gets with the technology, that they're willing to change and adapt. If you hold in mind that you do things in the best interest of the customer, you're going to be perfectly fine. I mean, it's just the basic principles of owning a business that like shine when you're running a family business, right? Like it's so important for anyone who's operating a business to provide like the best operation ability that they can, right? There's so many people out there who get in a family business and get lazy. They don't want to do the work. They don't show up on time. I'm interested to know, have you ever been a part of a family business and kind of noticed this attitude with people that you've seen operate in the family business, showing up late, disrespectful attitude, arguing in front of staff, stuff like that? It's interesting to me. But family businesses can't succeed, but you have to treat each other and the company like you're not dealing with family. You literally you should set meetings with regularity. You should have agendas for your meetings. You should use email when you're talking about business things. You should show manners to each other. You should be respectful. You should work hard. Like all the things that you would do when you're working for someone else or at a corporation, if you bring those basic principles with you to a business, that will change the game in how you deal with your family too. Like it really will. It will put your business on the next tier to survive, when you do the job. I find that when families are just honest and open and fully transparent and brutally honest with each other, they tend to succeed like very heavily. But yeah, that's what I think. It all started with the article I saw, and I'm glad we were able to kind of dig deep dive into this, but it's going to be very, very critical for, if you want to succeed as a family business, that you do what it takes to the next level to get there. All right. Well, thank you for tuning into my live show. I had a great time today. I'm actually going to, I think this is an okay time. I think I'm going to try to make it a little earlier in the afternoon, around about lunchtime. Maybe shoot for like 1 o'clock. Sometimes I get like really, really, much higher counts at lunchtime. I will tell you that I am traveling later in the week. I did an interview with a woman by the name of Marsha Daywood, and she's an angel investor, and she started a angel investing advising company. This interview is dropping tomorrow afternoon at like 1 o'clock. And we talked all about how it's possible that she can how you can invest in companies that do good based off of it, like in your local community specifically, based off of like you choosing the right company to go after. So if you ever wanted to be an angel investor, we talk about how to get started, how to build your network, all the other stuff that's included in you becoming an angel investor, investing, making that a smaller part of your investing portfolio, but like a diverse part of it. All right. So anyways, thank you for watching the live show today. And don't forget, if you don't go about doing your business, you're going to be doing the business of someone else. Until next time, I'm out of here. Peace.